The law of the Lord is perfect, converting the soul. Welcome back to the Berean Pursuit. This is week 46, day 5. Today we're reading Daniel chapters 10 through 12 and John chapter 20. Last time in Daniel, we were beginning the prophecies, the section of prophecies in the book of Daniel. And so we looked at some of those last time, dealing with the kingdoms that would come, especially with the Romans and what would happen with them when the kingdom is set up, as well as what would happen under Antiochus Epiphanes with the Greek kingdom oppressing the Jews and the things that were going to happen there, and then eventually God bringing judgment against it. And then we also saw that Daniel was praying. He saw that the 70 years was getting close to an end, and the people should be returning, but he also knew that according to the law of Moses, they needed to pray and confess their sins and turn to God. And so he's doing that on behalf of the nation, and God is listening. And so God gives them this message, which includes the Messiah coming and the temple being destroyed once again. Now let's get into our reading today in Daniel chapters 10 through 12. In the 3rd year of Cyrus, king of Persia, a message was revealed to Daniel, who was called Belteshazzar. The message was true, and it concerned a great conflict, and the understanding of the message was given to him in a vision. In those days, I, Daniel, was mourning for 3 full weeks. I ate no rich food, no meat or wine entered my mouth, and I did not anoint myself with oil until the 3 weeks were completed. On the 24th day of the 1st month, as I was standing on the banks of the great river, the Tigris, I lifted up my eyes, and behold, there was a certain man dressed in linen, with a belt of fine gold from Uphaz around his waist. His body was like beryl, his face like the brilliance of lightning, his eyes like flaming torches, his arms and legs like the gleam of polished bronze, and his voice like the sound of a multitude. Only I, Daniel, saw the vision. The men with me did not see it, but a great terror fell upon them, and they ran and hid themselves. So I was left alone, gazing at this great vision. No strength remained in me, my face grew deathly pale, and I was powerless. I heard the sound of his words, and as I listened, I fell into a deep sleep with my face to the ground. Suddenly a hand touched me and set me trembling on my hands and knees. He said to me, "Daniel, you are a man who is highly precious. Consider carefully the words that I am about to say to you. Stand up, for I have now been sent to you." And when he said this to me, I stood up, trembling. "Do not be afraid, Daniel," he said, "for from the first day that you purposed to understand and to humble yourself before God, your words were heard, and I have come in response to them. However, the prince of the kingdom of Persia opposed me for 21 days. Then Michael, one of the chief princes, came to help me, for I had been left there with the kings of Persia. Now I have come to explain to you what will happen to your people in the latter days, for the vision concerns those days." While he was speaking these words to me, I set my face toward the ground and became speechless. And suddenly one with the likeness of a man touched my lips, and I opened my mouth and said to the one standing before me, "My Lord, because of the vision I am overcome with anguish, and I have no strength. How can I, your servant, speak with you, my Lord? Now I have no strength, nor is any breath left in me." Again, the one with the likeness of a man touched me and strengthened me. "Do not be afraid, you who are highly precious," he said. "Peace be with you. Be strong now, be very strong." As he spoke with me, I was strengthened and said, "Speak, my Lord, for you have strengthened me." "Do you know why I have come to you?" he said. I must return at once to fight against the prince of Persia, and when I have gone forth, behold, the prince of Greece will come. But first I will tell you what is inscribed in the book of truth, yet no one has the courage to support me against these except Michael, your prince. And I, in the first year of Darius the Mede, stood up to strengthen and protect him. Now then, I will tell you the truth. 3 more kings will arise in Persia, and then a 4th, who will be far richer than all the others. By the power of his wealth he will stir up everyone against the kingdom of Greece. Then a mighty king will arise, who will rule with great authority and do as he pleases. But as soon as he is established, his kingdom will be broken up and parceled out toward the 4 winds of heaven. It will not go to his descendants, nor will it have the authority with which he ruled, because his kingdom will be uprooted and given to others. The king of the south will grow strong, but one of his commanders will grow even stronger, and will rule his own kingdom with great authority. After some years they will form an alliance, and the daughter of the king of the south will go to the king of the north to seal the agreement. But his daughter will not retain her position of power, nor will his strength endure. At that time she will be given up, along with her royal escort and her father and the one who supported her. But one from her family line will rise up in his place, come against the army of the king of the north, and enter his fortress, fighting and prevailing. He will take even their gods captive to Egypt, with their metal images and their precious vessels of silver and gold. For some years he will stay away from the king of the north, who will invade the realm of the king of the south, and then return to his own land. But his sons will stir up strife and assemble a great army, which will advance forcefully, sweeping through like a flood, and will again carry the battle as far as his fortress. In a rage, the king of the south will march out to fight the king of the north, who will raise a large army, but it will be delivered into the hand of his enemy. When the army is carried off, the king of the south will be proud in heart and will cast down tens of thousands, but he will not triumph. For the king of the north will raise another army, larger than the first, and after some years he will advance with a great army and many supplies. In those times many will rise up against the king of the south. Violent ones among your own people will exalt themselves in fulfillment of the vision, but they will fail. Then the king of the north will come, build up a siege ramp, and capture a fortified city. The forces of the south will not stand. Even their best troops will not be able to resist. The invader will do as he pleases, and no one will stand against him. He will establish himself in the beautiful land, with destruction in his hand. He will resolve to come with the strength of his whole kingdom, and will reach an agreement with the king of the south. He will give him a daughter in marriage in order to overthrow the kingdom, but his plan will not succeed or help him. Then he will turn his face to the coastlands and capture many of them, but a commander will put an end to his reproach and will turn it back upon him. After this, he will turn back toward the fortresses of his own land, but he will stumble and fall and be no more. In his place one will arise who will send out a tax collector for the glory of the kingdom, but within a few days he will be destroyed, though not in anger or in battle. In his place a despicable person will arise. Royal honors will not be given to him, but he will come in a time of peace and seize the kingdom by intrigue. Then a flood of forces will be swept away before him and destroyed along with a prince of the covenant. After an alliance is made with him, he will act deceitfully, for he will rise to power with only a few people. In a time of peace, he will invade the richest provinces and do what his fathers and forefathers never did. He will lavish plunder, loot, and wealth on his followers, and he will plot against the strongholds, but only for a time. And with a large army he will stir up his power and his courage against the king of the south, who will mobilize a very large and powerful army, but will not withstand the plots devised against him. Those who eat from his provisions will seek to destroy him. His army will be swept away, and many will fall slain. And the two kings with their hearts bent on evil will speak lies at the same table, but to no avail, for still the end will come at the appointed time. The king of the north will return to his land with great wealth, but his heart will be set against the holy covenant, so he will do damage and return to his own land. At the appointed time he will invade the south again, but this time will not be like the first. Ships of Kittim will come against him, and he will lose heart. Then he will turn back and rage against the holy covenant and do damage. So he will return and show favor to those who forsake the holy covenant. His forces will rise up and desecrate the temple fortress. They will abolish the daily sacrifice and set up the abomination of desolation. With flattery he will corrupt those who violate the covenant, but the people who know their God will firmly resist him. Those with insight will instruct many, though for a time they will fall by sword or flame, or be captured or plundered. Now when they fall, they will be granted a little help, but many will join them insincerely. Some of the wise will fall, so that they may be refined, purified, and made spotless until the time of the end, for it will still come at the appointed time. Then the king will do as he pleases, and will exalt and magnify himself above every god, and he will speak monstrous things against the God of gods. He will be successful until the time of wrath is completed, for what has been decreed must be accomplished. He will show no regard for the gods of his fathers, nor for the one desired by women, nor for any other god, because he will magnify himself above them all. And in their place he will honor a god of fortresses, a god his fathers did not know, with gold, silver, precious stones, and riches. He will attack the strongest fortresses with the help of a foreign god, and will greatly honor those who acknowledge him, making them rulers over many, and distributing the land for a price. At the time of the end, the king of the south will engage him in battle, but the king of the north will storm out against him with chariots, horsemen, and many ships, invading many countries, and sweeping through them like a flood. He will also invade the beautiful land, and many countries will fall, but these will be delivered from his hand, Edom, Moab, and the leaders of the Ammonites. He will extend his power over many countries, and not even the land of Egypt will escape. He will gain control of the treasures of gold and silver, and over all the riches of Egypt, and the Libyans and Cushites will also submit to him. But news from the east and the north will alarm him, and he will go out with great fury to destroy many and devote them to destruction. He will pitch his royal tents between the sea and the beautiful holy mountain, but he will meet his end with no one to help him. At that time, Michael the great prince, who stands watch over your people, will rise up. There will be a time of distress, the likes of which will not have occurred from the beginning of nations until that time. But at that time, your people, everyone whose name is found written in the book, will be delivered. And many who sleep in the dust of the earth will awake, some to everlasting life, but others to shame and everlasting contempt. Then the wise will shine like the brightness of the heavens, and those who lead many to righteousness will shine like the stars forever and ever. But you, Daniel, shut up these words and seal the book until the time of the end. Many will roam to and fro, and knowledge will increase. Then I, Daniel, looked and saw two others standing there, one on this bank of the river and one on the opposite bank. One of them said to the man dressed in linen who was above the waters of the river, "How long until the fulfillment of these wonders?" And the man dressed in linen who was above the waters of the river raised his right hand and his left hand toward heaven, and I heard him swear by him who lives forever, saying, "It will be for a time, and times, and half a time. When the power of the holy people has finally been shattered, all these things will be completed." I heard, but I did not understand. So I asked, "My Lord, what will be the outcome of these things?" "Go on your way, Daniel," he replied, "for the words are closed up and sealed until the time of the end." Many will be purified, made spotless, and refined, but the wicked will continue to act wickedly. None of the wicked will understand, but the wise will understand. And from the time the daily sacrifice is abolished and the abomination of desolation set up, there will be 1,290 days. Blessed is he who waits and reaches the end of the 1,335 days. But as for you, go on your way until the end. You will rest and will arise to your inheritance at the end of the days. And now to the New Testament in John chapter 20. Last time in John, we were looking in chapter 19 at the crucifixion of Jesus. So Pilate does crucify him after having him flogged. He was mocked by the soldiers, and then he was taken to be crucified. His clothes were divided among those who crucified him, according to the prophecy. And he died. He gave up his spirit on the cross, and they broke the legs of the other two men so that they would not be on the cross during the Sabbath day. But Jesus, they did not break his bones because he was already dead. They did pierce his side to ensure that he was dead, and water and blood came out immediately. So this was witnessed by the writer of the book, John, and so he testified about it. But then these two men, Joseph of Arimathea and Nicodemus, take the body of Jesus and bury him in this new tomb. No one has ever been laid in it. It's there nearby in the garden, and he is placed there, and it's going to be the Sabbath then, where they will have to wait until the first day of the week to do anything else with the body. All right, let's get into the reading now in John chapter 20. Early on the first day of the week, while it was still dark, Mary Magdalene went to the tomb and saw that the stone had been removed from the entrance. So she came running to Simon Peter and the other disciple, the one whom Jesus loved. "They have taken the Lord out of the tomb," she said, "and we do not know where they have put him." Then Peter and the other disciple set out for the tomb. The two were running together, but the other disciple outran Peter and reached the tomb first. He bent down and looked in at the linen cloths lying there, but he did not go in. Simon Peter arrived just after him. He entered the tomb and saw the linen cloths lying there. The cloth that had been around Jesus' head was rolled up, lying separate from the linen cloths. Then the other disciple, who had reached the tomb first, also went in, and he saw and believed, for they still did not understand from the scripture that Jesus had to rise from the dead. Then the disciples returned to their homes, but Mary stood outside the tomb weeping. And as she wept, she bent down to look into the tomb, and she saw two angels in white sitting where the body of Jesus had lain, one at the head and the other at the feet. "Woman, why are you weeping?" they asked. "Because they have taken my Lord away," she said, "and I do not know where they have put him." When she had said this, she turned around and saw Jesus standing there, but she did not recognize that it was Jesus. "Woman, why are you weeping?" Jesus asked. "Whom are you seeking?" Thinking he was the gardener, she said, "Sir, if you have carried him off, tell me where you have put him, and I will get him." Jesus said to her, "Mary." She turned and said to him in Hebrew, "Rabboni," which means teacher. "Do not cling to me," Jesus said, "for I have not yet ascended to the Father. But go and tell my brothers, I am ascending to my Father and your Father, to my God and your God." Mary Magdalene went and announced to the disciples, "I have seen the Lord," and she told them what he had said to her. It was the first day of the week, and that very evening, while the disciples were together with the doors locked for fear of the Jews, Jesus came and stood among them. "Peace be with you," he said to them. After he had said this, he showed them his hands and his feet. The disciples rejoiced when they saw the Lord. Again, Jesus said to them, Peace be with you. As the Father has sent me, so also I am sending you." When he had said this, he breathed on them and said, "Receive the Holy Spirit. If you forgive anyone his sins, they are forgiven. If you withhold forgiveness from anyone, it is withheld." Now Thomas, called Didymus, one of the 12, was not with the disciples when Jesus came. So the other disciples told him, "We have seen the Lord." But he replied, "Unless I see the nail marks in his hands, and put my finger where the nails have been, and put my hands into his side, I will never believe." 8 days later, his disciples were once again inside with the doors locked, and Thomas was with them. Jesus came and stood among them and said, "Peace be with you." Then Jesus said to Thomas, "Put your finger here and look at my hands. Reach out your hand and put it into my side. Stop doubting and believe." Thomas replied, "My Lord and my God." Jesus said to him, "Because you have seen me, you have believed. Blessed are those who have not seen and yet have believed." Jesus performed many other signs in the presence of his disciples, which are not written in this book, but these are written so that you may believe that Jesus is the Christ, the Son of God, and that by believing you may have life in his name. All right, in our reading today in Daniel, we saw one long prophecy, and it's really taking the previous prophecies and just going into a lot more detail. So he's covering this idea of the Greeks coming in and taking over from the Medes and the Persians with this one strong king who's going to die, and then his kingdom will be divided up. So Alexander the Great, and then his generals receiving these different parts of the kingdom, and they're going to fight one another. Particularly, he focuses on the north and the south. So the northern kingdom is the one around Syria, and the southern kingdom of Greece is the one around Egypt. And so when they fight each other, they go right through what's referred to as the beautiful land, or Israel. Israel's caught right in the middle of all of this fighting. And so when one of them has a bad time, he takes it out on the Jews. And eventually, there's a lot of really terrible things going on there with the Jews, especially under Antiochus Epiphanes, that little horn that boasted great things and exalted itself against the God of heaven. Well, he describes that person in more detail in this prophecy. These prophecies are covering what we call the 400 years of silence, where this is during the period after the return, after Malachi is written, but before the New Testament begins. There's about 400 years between the end of the Old Testament and the beginning of the New Testament. And this is talking about a lot of what's happening during that time. Even the ships of Kittim that cause this one to turn away from the south, that is actually Cyprus, but it's really talking about the Romans coming. And the Romans tell him, "You've got to turn around and go back." And they were powerful enough by that time that he had to listen. He was not happy about it, but he did. But that's showing that the Romans are about to take over pretty soon. But at the end of the prophecy, he goes all the way to the end of time with the resurrection from the dead. He talks about those who sleep in the dust of the earth awaking, some to everlasting life, others to shame and everlasting contempt. So the final judgment and the resurrection. And he says that's what's going to happen to you, Daniel. You're going to rest, and you will arise to your inheritance at the end of the days. So this is what we're looking at. He's encouraging the Jews that God knows what is going to happen during all this time. When you're going through it, don't be surprised, and look for the final judgment as encouragement to remain faithful. Even if you die, You can be raised to everlasting life. And this is what we see in the book of Revelation. It's the same thing, only the book of Revelation is written for Christians who are going to go through persecution. And so it ends looking forward to that resurrection and the final judgment and the reward in heaven as that encouragement for them to be faithful throughout the persecution they were going through as well. So very, very similar stories for similar purposes. Then in John 20, we see the story of the resurrection on the first day of the week. So Mary Magdalene goes, finds the tomb empty, tells Peter and John, the other disciple, the one Jesus loved, which we find is John, and they run there, see the empty tomb, and they believe. I don't know for sure what they believe, if they believe that it's empty, as Mary said, or they believe Jesus has been raised, but it says they believed, but they did not understand yet that Jesus had to rise from the dead. So not completely sure, but then Jesus appears to Mary Magdalene, tells her to tell the others that he has been raised and he's going to go back to heaven. But he appears to his disciples as well, first without Thomas, and Thomas refuses to believe. And then he appears again with Thomas there, and Thomas believes. And all of this is written, he tells us at the end of this chapter, so that we may believe that Jesus is the Christ, the Son of God, and that by believing we can have life in his name. So all of this evidence, all this testimony is there for us to believe so that we can have eternal life. This isn't the end of the book, but he's telling us what the whole book has been about up to this point, and will continue to be as he continues on for the little bit that's left. All right, well, that is the reading for today and for this week. So join me again next week as, Lord willing, we will continue with the Berean pursuit.